Welcome to the Masonic Authors Guild International Reviews. The Masonic Authors Guild International, or MAGI's mission, as well as these review podcasts, is to promote the highest professional and academic standards in Masonic research, education, and publications. To expand its mission, the Guild is pleased to occasionally present a book review published in a scholarly journal of an academic quality book, specifically related to Freemasonry or fraternalism in general. Such reviewed books, by their MAGI selection, earn the Masonic Authors Guild seal of approval. Reviewed work: All Men, Free and Brethren, Essays on the History of African American Freemasonry by Peter P. Hinks, David Kantrowitz, Leslie A. Lewis, reviewed by Richard J. Boles, in the Journal of the Early Republic, Volume 34, Number 2, Summer 2014, pages 306 to page 308, 3 pages. All Men, Free and Brethren, Essays on the History of African American Freemasonry, edited by Peter P. Hinks and Stephen Kantrowitz, foreword by Leslie A. Lewis, published by Cornell University Press in 2013, 280 pages, cloth binding. Reviewed by Richard F. Boles. All Men, Free and Brethren presents the current state of scholarship on African American Prince Hall Freemasonry. It is both a rich collection of essays that cover a wide array of topics and time periods, and an indispensable guide for further research. All the chapters work together to form a cohesive narrative of the history of African American Freemasons. Common themes within this book are the creative tensions within Freemasonry between claims of universality and exclusive practices, the connection between African American Masons and other institutions, especially black churches, and the active engagement of Freemasons in political activism. In the editor's introduction, Peter P. Hinks and Stephen Kantrowitz provide a readable summary of African American Freemasonry from its founding to the late 18th century to the present. This book is an important addition to the small but growing list of scholarship focused on African American Freemasonry that includes other publications by the author of this volume and recent works by Theda Skocpol, Ariane Liassos, and Marshall Gans. The 8 main chapters are organized chronologically. Readers of the JER, of the Journal of Early Republic, may be especially interested in the chapters written by Cherno M. Cisse, Jr., Peter Hinks, Julie Winch, and Corey D.B. Walker, which cover the late 18th and early 19th centuries, and which effectively connect African American Freemasonry to broader scholarship on the early United States. Cherno Cisse analyzes the social and economic origins of African American Freemasonry, particularly in 18th century Boston, and provides an accurate account of the difficulties and strategies employed by black Bostonians moving from slavery to freedom. He suggests that the early African lodge is best understood as, quote, a complicated form of northern urban leadership arising from the tensions produced by gaining release from bondage but not achieving equal citizenship, unquote, page 23. Peter Hinks' chapter explores the exchanges and interactions that occurred between American and Haitian black Masons and analyzes the strong connection between African American Freemasonry and reform movements, especially abolitionism. By analyzing the life of John Temelicus Hilton, Hinks argues that African American Freemasonry was, quote, a highly progressive, even radical order of select black men, unquote, who believed that living according to Masonic, Christian, and Republican principles would help fundamentally reform America and eliminate slavery, page 45. According to Hinks, quote, African American Freemasons directly challenged the inequities and stark deficiencies of the nation while simultaneously embracing an identity with it and whatever virtuous ideals it upheld, unquote, page 55. Julie Winch's chapter explores the lives of the earliest black Masons in Philadelphia from 1797 to 1800. In this crucial period, when Philadelphia's African Lodge came into being, Winch argues that the black Masons were a diverse, cosmopolitan group who affiliated with different churches, practiced a wide range of professions, and had varied educational levels. Winch also shows how this lodge was founded and grew from not only connections with Masons in Boston and London, but also out of the churches, schools, and benevolent societies that black Philadelphians founded prior to 1797. In a brief but thoughtful chapter, Corey Walker argues that African American Freemasons, unlike some white founders such as Thomas Jefferson, created, quote, a political language that critically blended religious and political ideas and pressed them simultaneously, unquote, to challenge the exclusion of African Americans from American polity, page 85. By analyzing public orations and remonstrations, principally those written by Prince Hall, Walker shows how the quote-unquote civil theology of Freemasonry enabled African Americans to critique their exclusion from the polity and also to justify their demands for inclusion therein. The book's other chapters, primarily covering the 1860s through the 20th century, are also well written and thoroughly researched. Stephen Kantrowitz connects the history of nationwide African American Freemasonry to the history of Reconstruction. He argues that the expansion of African American Freemasonry into the South and West after the Civil War occurred despite the failures of white Masons to recognize black lodges and the failure of the National Grand Lodge to sustain unity against schisms and personal disputes. Brittany C. Cooper skillfully analyzes early 20th century gender politics in the Order of the Eastern Star, a female auxiliary to Prince Hall Masonry. Focusing primarily on Sue M. Wilson Brown, she shows how women's auxiliaries, quote, served as both battleground and laboratory in the quest to train and employ African American women in racial leadership roles, unquote, page 116. David G. Hackett's insightful chapter explores the multi-layered connections between black churches and Prince Hall Masons through the life of James Walker Hood, who was a bishop of the African Methodist Episcopal Zion Church and Grand Master of the North Carolina Grand Lodge. Finally, Martin Summers convincingly argues that the preservation of black Masonic history and records by Prince Hall Masons from the 1860s to the 20th century was a means of combating non-recognition by white Masons and a process of establishing authority as, quote, race leaders, unquote, in African American communities. This volume also includes a chronology of major events and 3 important texts of Prince Hall Freemasonry, a glossary of basic Masonic terminology, major repositories of Prince Hall Masonic history, and Prince Hall Grand Lodge contact information. Precisely because Prince Hall Masons were a fraternal organization, more of the book's contributors would have benefited from adding the sort of gender analysis that Brittany Cooper uses in her chapter. Overall, this volume makes substantial historiographical contributions by connecting Prince Hall Freemasonry to many other aspects of African American history. Richard J. Boles is a visiting assistant professor of early American history at the City College of New York. He is currently preparing a book-length study of race relations in northern Protestant churches from 1730 to 1850.